Maybe that studio is just not full. And they're also really afraid of raising their rates because they think if they raise their rates, they're going to lose students. Bottom line, they just don't have a full studio and they're worried about keeping their students. Okay, let's talk about student retention and student referrals, because you're a great teacher and yet somehow your music studio or your acting or your dance classes are not flourishing. What is going on, and how can you increase your student retention and student referrals? Because in order to have that incredible full studio with dream students, you've got to figure out not just your social media, but also how to get students to stay and want to refer you to their friends and family, right? Hi, I'm Fiona, and it is my pleasure to bring you all things mindset, marketing, and monetization for performing artists. I've got a Facebook community. I invite you to join it. Come on over to Instagram. There's a free social media masterclass for you in the description. And let's get to it. Let's dive into student retention and referrals. Sound good? Okay, here's the thing. I was a singing teacher myself for many years. And when I say many, I mean decades. And I was also a singing student and acting student, opera student. I was a student of many, many teachers during these years as well. And along the way, I've learned a few things about what keeps students staying and what gets them going, what gets them referring people to you, their friends, family, etc., even shouting you out online, and what gets them kind of saying maybe that's somebody to avoid. All right? Because we want to figure out how to get those students to stick around and have such a phenomenal experience that they're talking about us to other people, right? Nowadays, when a new performer joins one of my business programs, I often see a similar pattern. Maybe their music studio or their acting classes, etc., maybe that studio is just not full, right? And they're on this kind of feast and famine treadmill, not even like a regular treadmill, but one that's like headed uphill, of feast and famine when the students are all there all of a sudden, but then they're gone, and it's really difficult to anticipate what your monthly revenue is going to be because you don't know how many students are going to be there each month. It really is frustrating, right? Often they're taking any student that comes their way, even if they're working on a genre that isn't one that the teacher actually likes. I mean, I remember that firsthand. I was one of those teachers who was like, I teach everything, all styles of music, any age, even though I didn't really love teaching children and I definitely didn't love certain styles of music. I didn't feel like it was up to me to get to say, hey, this is who I want to teach, right? And they're also really afraid of raising their rates because they think if they raise their rates, they're going to lose students. Maybe you feel that way too. And they're worried about what people are charging in their market, even though they're teaching online, which means their market is now the world. But that's another story. Bottom line, they just don't have a full studio and they're worried about keeping their students, let alone having those students bring in more students. Does that sound familiar? Well, not to worry, because in today's video, we are really going to be discussing how to get what it is that you actually want, which is high retention, a totally full studio, right? With premium pricing and brand ambassadors. And what I mean by brand ambassadors are students, your students, who are going out and telling all of their friends and family and shouting you out on the internet as well, because they love lessons with you so much they want other people to know about them. And I bet you also want to be working with your dream students, even if that hasn't really been front of mind, like you haven't really realized that you could be teaching your dream students. And I know from personal experience that you do know when a student sucks the lifeblood right out of your body, right? Just like you know which are the students who just absolutely light you up. So can you imagine for just a moment having a completely full studio of those dream students that light you up? Great news, that is what we are going to be covering today. 5 ways to increase not only student retention, but also student referrals so that you can build an absolutely thriving studio and business as a performing artist. All right, let's get to it. 1, create a premium experience. Fiona, a premium experience? I'm not a Mercedes or a Chanel bag. What do you mean a premium experience? I'm not a luxury hotel. No, I totally get it. You are a teacher, a music teacher, an acting coach, whatever kind of teaching you do. The thing is, you can actually create a premium experience. And I'm going to give you a couple examples from my own life. I had a teacher in Florida, a singing teacher, who always was stocked with fresh bottles of unopened water. So not only when you walked in did she offer you a fresh bottle of water, but you had your choice of cold and room temperature, because of course singers often prefer room temperature, but during the height of the heat in Florida, that cold water was like, oh my gosh, it was like, I mean, what is the best thing ever, right? That was the best thing ever. Now, here's the thing. At the time, if you're a starving artist, and at that time I certainly was, a fresh bottle of unopened water felt like such a luxury. So the things that you do to create a premium experience don't have to be super expensive, right? They can be little things that make all the difference. It made me feel special when she offered me that luxurious bottle of water. Another example, I had an opera coach back in San Francisco when I was working on lyric diction in multiple languages, and that was her specialty. Well, she had a tea setup so that when you came in and you were waiting for your lesson to start, you could go over to the tea area where there were so many different choices and always fresh, pretty china and boiling or hot water ready for you, and make your own little tea setup. Oh my gosh, it just felt so nice and nourishing and warming. And in San Francisco, the weather was on the colder side a lot of the time. So again, like thinking about what's right for you, your environment, whether that's the location or just something else about what it is that you do, something surprising and simple, so lovely, and creates this experience for your student where they want to come. Does that make sense? I'll give you one more example. The first business coach that I worked with, she sent me a care package right after I paid my initial large investment. And what came in that care package were 2 books on subjects we were going to be covering during our time together, as well as a really nice journal and one of those special pens. And so I felt, again, special, and it was such a lovely surprise, not something I expected at all, but something that I remember years later. This is the kind of impact you want to make on your student with not a hugely expensive outpouring, but just a something that is special or surprising and causes you to be remembered fondly and appreciated, and because the student themselves is feeling appreciated and recognized. Is this landing? I hope so. So the second thing is to over-deliver. Now, providing some kind of premium experience like we're just talking, that is a step towards over-delivering, right? But how else can you over-delivering? I had another singing teacher in San Francisco. This one I stayed with for years and years and years. Now, she had a lot of ways in which she over-delivered. One of them was the monthly recital that she put on for all of her students. And then the way in which she put on that monthly recital, which was just lovely and created community. So creating a community around your studio will also increase retention and referral. Can you see why? I loved going to those recitals, which she called salons. It made us all feel very special. I loved the community that I was becoming a part of, and I wanted other friends and family to be part of that community, right? Now, putting on that recital, sure, it did take some of her time, but it wasn't expensive. She did it right out of her home, and she fed us nicely sliced apples, and that's about it. But it was really, really nice. That was her way of over-delivering. One of the ways that I consistently over-deliver is on my coaching calls and the calls inside of my program, Profitable Performer Revolution. I want to make sure that everybody feels seen and heard. And so even though it's not a group coaching program, I still do hot seat coaching, and I want to make sure that everyone gets their questions answered. So I'll stay over time just to make sure everyone is really getting their needs met. This is another way of over-delivering. So of course you need to have clarity around your boundaries, but within those boundaries, how can you over-deliver? Okay, number 3 is to differentiate yourself. If you do not differentiate yourself, then basically students are going to choose by price. They're going to go, okay, I want the cheapest, or they may say, I want the most expensive. If somebody charges more, then they're definitely the better teacher, right? Well, of course, we know that that's not true, but that is a way that people will choose who to take lessons from. Price. Maybe they want someone in the middle, but they'll just go by price. Unless you differentiate what it is that you offer from everybody else out there. Because there are a lot of music teachers, acting coaches, etc., right? So at this point, what you have to do is figure out what your niche is and your zone of genius. Now, what do I mean by this? Your niche is like very specifically who it is that you are wanting to attract, right? So back in the day, I would have done a lot better if I had said, you know what? I teach people that are 15 years through adult, and I specialize in musical theater and classical repertoire. Then I would have attracted more of my dream students because they were singing the repertoire that I really, really liked. And I would have avoided having to listen to a bunch of songs and learn a bunch of songs that I didn't like. Do you see what I mean? But it also attracts the students to you because they recognize you're an expert in the thing that they most want. And in fact, I did, because it was clear that I was an opera singer, attract more people interested in opera. But if I had been even more intentional about it, it would have been easier. And then what about your zone of genius? Because I got really stuck teaching technique because I thought that's what I was supposed to teach and I was good at it. Teaching technique was a zone of excellence. It was something that I had studied really hard, but it was not something that I loved, and it was not really my genius. And so it wasn't until I started shifting out of teaching singing into shifting into doing the business coaching that I realized all along I had in fact been teaching mindset, inner work, and monetization, because I was always fascinated about how performing artists could make money, especially because I myself had multiple income streams. Back when I was into that whole sort of starving artist lifestyle, I was working all these different gigs, but I actually was relatively successful, more so than some of my peers, because I had developed a concert business and an event singing business on top of my music studio, on top of auditioning and doing regional contracts. So it became incredibly satisfying once I shifted over to business coaching, realizing that really my zone of genius has to do with the mindset and the inner work and the monetization. And now as I've gotten really into it, I've learned so much about marketing, and that's become a true passion as well. So my point is, once you start nailing your niche and your zone of genius, then you can start talking about it in a way with both your students and online via social media, so that you're attracting the people who really want what it is that you really love to do. And then that creates very engaged people, not just in your online audience, but also your actual students, as they see you and experience you being in your zone of genius. Now, number 4, coming right out of the zone of genius, is stop trying to be like everybody else, right? Whether it's in lessons or online, you don't want to be teaching anymore what it is you think you're supposed to be teaching or what everybody else is saying. Instead, you want to fully line up with who you really are, your core beliefs, your core values, and teach from there. And then your passion becomes contagious, and your students actually get magnetized by how much you are believing and excited about what it is that you're doing, so that they want to be around you more and they want to share you with their friends and family and network. One of the things that makes my program, the Profitable Performer Revolution, so incredibly impactful is that it helps performing artists to really identify their niche, their zone of genius, and their authentic voice, so that when you present yourself, whether it's in lessons or online in your content, you're truly coming from the center of your passion. Does that sound good? I mean, ask yourself, is that something you're already doing? And if not, how can you tap into that essential truth more? And also, you want to start showing up powerfully and authentically online. So why does it matter about showing up online when we're talking about student retention and referrals, right? That doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what you're doing online, except that how are your students going to tell the people that they want to know about you? How are they going to tell them about you? Well, sure, they'll just say nice stuff. But if they have a place to send those people, all the better, right? If they can say, hey, check out her Instagram, she's really present there, or check out her YouTube channel, she does really great tutorials. Well, that just makes it that much easier to get the referrals, right? But on top of that, it also boosts your retention because the students are excited to see you show up online. Even without a large following, you feel like a mini celebrity to them. And that's fun. It's fun to be taking lessons from a mini celebrity. And as your influence grows, your authority online will grow too, and your reach will probably expand as well. Now we're going to be dealing with an overflow of students and the point where you may want to scale your business, in which case you may want to watch this video next or watch the social media masterclass I have linked in the description. Because once you get to that place of overflow is when you actually want to stop doing the trading time for money in the one-to-one lesson context. That's when you want to start expanding into group coaching and passive income, etc. And I teach all about that inside of PPR as well. So hit me up for that if you want more information. Okay, I know we said 5, but I'm going to give you one bonus tip, which is to create community. And we talked a little bit about this already, but let's expand. So you want to create a community and a culture within your studio that not only attracts new students into it, but makes the students there feel like they're part of something special and that they want to stay. And not only that they want to stay, but they want to bring people into this beautiful culture or beautiful community. And everything that we already talked about will help with that. The premium experience, doing things like having recitals, over-delivering, and creating just this community of people who feel connected to each other as well as connected through you. All right, so I hope this was really helpful for you in terms of getting more students, retaining the ones that you have, and creating this environment where your students really want to shout you out and bring more students into the beautiful studio that you've created. Remember, if you want more content like this, come on over to Facebook and join my Facebook community. It's totally free. If you want to learn more about social media, then definitely watch the free masterclass. If you're interested in scaling your own business or learning everything and anything about mindset marketing and monetization, leveraging social media, then reach out about joining the Profitable Performer Revolution. Catch me on Instagram, all the rest. If you have an idea or a question for a video, then let me know in the comments. And if you liked this video, then you may want to watch these videos next. Now, as always, go out into the world and let your light shine. You deserve to be heard, and the world deserves to hear you.